Hi, everyone. I am Netta Sagafi, Vice Chair of BHBA's litigation section. I am delighted to introduce our speakers today, Paul Marcagiani and Jennifer Cho. Paul is a Los Angeles-based performance coach, a former entertainment lawyer, and founder CEO of Vox Vera, a veteran of Warner Brothers, NBC Universal, Miramax, and Amazon Studios. He spent over 15 years leading business and legal teams and advising top producers and studio heads. He is a trained stage performer and certified Patsy Rodenberg coach. And Paul now teaches communication and public speaking at leading law schools, including Stanford, Berkeley, and the University of Chicago. Jennifer is a partner at Piper Wolf, Carr, Kane, Conway, and Wise LLP in Los Angeles, where she focuses on the firm's IVF clinic and fertility misconduct practice. She is a former assistant United States attorney for over 17 years. She prosecuted complex violent and organized crime cases and argued numerous appeals before the Ninth Circuit. Jennifer also teaches trial advocacy at USC Gold School of Law and leads professional improv workshops that combine creativity and communication skills for legal and corporate professionals. Paul and Jennifer, thanks so much for being here with us today. And now let's get started.
Thank you so much, Netta. And we are so excited to be here. Thanks for joining us for Applied Improvisation for Lawyers. This is a presentation that Jen and I are so excited to present today. It's something that we work together on because we think that improvisation skills are essential for lawyers. It's useful for litigators, it's useful for transactional lawyers, and it's also just great life skills. So our goal for today, we'll say a little bit more about how we came to improv and what improvisation means for us. But our goal today is to give you a sense of how improvisation is useful for you in your practice, in your life, and hopefully give you some practical exercises that you can try at your own firm and give you a little taste of what it feels like to improvise and how we can use that in our practice of law. So to get started, I'm going to say a little bit more about how I came to improvisation and why we do this, and then I'll hand it off to Jen. For me, I come to the practice of law as a performer first. So I studied music in high school and college. I was a voice major and did opera for a while. And then I went straight to law school, did the litigation track, moot court, mock trial championship team, wanted to be a courtroom lawyer. The performance aspect was really interesting to me. And then I did that. I was a litigator for 5 years up in San Francisco. And around my fourth or fifth year as a litigator, after some long days in conference rooms reviewing documents, I pulled aside a friend from my prior firm and said, hey, why don't we sign up for this improv class? I'd heard some things about improv. It seemed fun. It fit in our schedules. So we both did it and we were hooked immediately. And what we loved about it was this 3-hour session every week where we could be completely free. We could make mistakes and not worry about the consequences, which is rare in law. We could also exercise our creative muscles, right? Stretch that rubber band in the opposite direction, as I like to say, right? Remind ourselves that we have this ability to create rather than just distill as lawyers, which we tend to be really good at. So did that, moved to Los Angeles and went in-house at NBC Universal. And then in Los Angeles, which is where I live now for the last 15, 16 years, I have done lots and lots of improv. So Upright Citizens Brigade, which is Amy Poehler's group. The Groundlings, which a lot of the SNL folks like Kristen Wiig and Phil Hartman back in the day came through. And that's very character-based and commitment-based. And then where Jen and I met is improv theater in Los Feliz, which comes from a different improv tradition based on the work of Keith Johnstone, a Canadian improviser. And it's very much about getting us back to a state of play and building stories where you're present with each other, you're not trying to pre-plan, and you really get out of your head well with this kind of improv. And then also it does theater sports, which are short games that we're going to take you through a little bit today. So that's how I come to this. I've also been performing I sung at LA Opera a couple seasons. I've done a lot of musical theater. and then I studied with a Shakespeare coach in the UK. So I left the practice of law, the practice of transactional business affairs, to do this full time, to do performance skills for lawyers, for leaders, and improvisation is a key part of that. So in my Stanford class, my Berkeley class, we do a lot of work on getting lawyers comfortable being vulnerable in front of each other, making mistakes, getting out of their head. So that's how I use it in my work now as a performance skills and public speaking coach for lawyers. Jen, I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. Thank you all for joining us. I understand there were some technical difficulties, and as improvisers, Paul and I are pretty well versed in just rolling with the punches, and I think that's something that lawyers need to be able to do as well. Um, uh, uh, just real quick about me, I was a big theater kid, a big theater geek, all through my childhood. Did a lot of theater and started doing improv in college at Stanford, and knew that I was interested in the law, knew I wanted to be a lawyer. But once I started doing improv, I also never stopped doing that. And I continued to do it. I took a break between college and law school to teach 7th and 11th grade English at a school in the South Bay where I started the improv group there, and it continues to this day because a heroic math teacher took my class and has taken over the group. And then continued to do it through law school, and I really have not stopped performing, studying, teaching improv for almost 30 years now. And after law school, I knew I wanted to be a litigator. I clerked on the Ninth Circuit, and I was at a firm in DC for a little bit. And then for 17 years, I was a federal prosecutor as an assistant U.S. attorney here in Los Angeles at the U.S. Attorney's Office. I've tried a lot of cases, argued a lot of appeals, and also for the last 9 years, I've been teaching. This would be my 9th year of teaching trial advocacy at USC Gould's School of Law. And just recently, I had a big pivot myself in which I left the U.S. Attorney's Office to join Piper Wolf, Carr, Kane, Conway, and Weiss as a plaintiff side civil litigation firm. And I joined their fertility and IVF misconduct practice. So the thread throughout all of this is that I have always been doing improv, regardless of what I've been doing in the law, because I see that the skills that you get from improv as something that will really enrich and heighten your legal practice. Again, I'm a litigator. Paul's coming more from a transactional side, but regardless of your legal practice, it will be something that will be made better for you if you apply the skills that you do as an improviser. The other reason that I keep doing improv is that it's, as Paul mentioned, it's fun. It brings joy. It's a safe space where you can let go of, the rules and restrictions of being a lawyer. I mean, we go through law school being taught how to be a lawyer, and that almost always means saying no, right? You're learning how to be careful. You're learning how to be cautious. You're learning how to evaluate risk, cost benefit analysis, think of and anticipate and make contingencies for negative consequences. It's a lot of worrying about the future. And, that is good for lawyers. Sometimes it's not that great in your life, right? Sometimes it can make you kind of an unpleasant person to your partner, to your kids, to your family, to your friends, if you're the one that's always saying, no, 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 no. Improv and continuing to do improv for me is a great reminder that I'm not just a lawyer, I am also a human, and that and that life is made better when you're able to embrace some of these tenets of improv, particularly saying yes. I could do a whole several hours on how I apply improv as a parent to parenting two small kids. Maybe we'll touch on some of that later, but for sure, what Paul and I hope to accomplish in this hour is to give you a little sense of some of the skills that we have developed as improvisers, over the, our careers. And because we're also both attorneys, how it is that we have found those skills to apply in our legal practices. But always, it's going to come back for me to how can it make you a happier and better person. Um, Paul, you want to,
I love
get
that
started?
so I love that so much, Jen. Some of these games that we're going to show you today will definitely be useful for kids. Word addition story is a great one, so hopefully that'll be useful for you. I do want to say just briefly before we launch into the practical skills and the fun games that we're going to show you, that science backs us up now. So we're at a place, you've all heard about improv in the workplace. There's a burgeoning industry out there, often of improvisers and improvisation companies that'll go into corporations and teach this. And there's research on it. So there's the Alda Center at Stony Brook that's done a lot of work on this recently, and other programs that are yeah,
Sorry,
you have some good yard work going on there. I love it. So there's research now, and what it shows from the science, from the cognitive science aspect, is really exciting for lawyers. So there's a few areas where improv is shown now to help thinking skills, and divergent thinking is a big one. So we do a lot of convergent thinking as lawyers. That's when you're distilling down the case. That's when you are doing deductive reasoning, right? So you're putting something into a smaller category. Divergent thinking is creative thinking. So that's thinking outside the box. That's finding the creative way to close a deal, which is what I was doing in Hollywood for 15 years, right? When it seems like you're at an impasse, how do you reset and have an ability to have creative thinking? And improv is shown scientifically to help you with that. And that's useful in litigation too, right? So if you want to follow a new piece of information that comes up in a deposition or in a witness examination, not being locked into your brief, into your outline, is going to be really helpful for that. So divergent thinking, uncertainty tolerance, dealing with risk. Wow, we are the people that are at the center of risk in any company, in any client dispute, right? So we're asked to weigh risk, and we need to be comfortable with that ambiguity. And improv is shown now to help you with that comfort level. And then affective well-being, which gets back to joy, affective well-being. So that's the positive emotional state. So improv is really useful from a scientific perspective. And what Jen and I are doing is we're bringing this, what we know to be true in our hearts, now we know it to be true in our heads. We're bringing it to you as practicing lawyers that can help you apply this in your daily life.
Now, I know many of you guys just joined us. We had to restart the Zoom because of technical difficulties. So I just want to repeat something that you may have missed the first time, which is this is a very unusual format for us. Paul and I have been teaching improv to law schools around the country, to lawyers all over. And, it's rarely a non-interactive webinar where you just see us talking and, we're going to play some games later, but just the two of us. If you have somebody with you, feel free to do some games there. But, if you want to have a more complete and frankly, a lot more fun experience. I encourage you to reach out to us about doing a workshop at your firm with your team, whatever it is, because, improv is inherently collaborative. And it is about understanding how you're going to interact with the people around you, whether it's your co-counsel, opposing counsel, judge, client, jury, right? And so I just want to sort of lay the mattress for us here that it is a little odd to just be listening to two talking heads discussing how great doing improv is without the chance to actually do it. My hope is that you guys can listen to what we're saying, see what it is that we're doing, and then get excited for more in a more interactive and in-person way. I mean, even on Zoom is better if we can actually see everybody. We know you're out there. We're told you're out there, and if you have any feedback, questions, comments, please use the chat because we want this to be as useful for you guys as possible. So please be a part of this conversation through the chat.
Thank you, Jen. Yes. And as we get into the material here, so we've thought about how to divide this up for lawyers. So we came up with three different areas that we think this concept of applied improvisation can be useful for the practice of the law. The first one's readiness. The second one is collaboration, and the last one is storytelling. So what we're going to do right now, we'll walk you through each of them and give you one or two different games that we can play, and Jen and I will demonstrate them. So at times we might be asking for comments, for suggestions from the audience. I don't know how many people we have live on the webinar now. If we don't get one, that's all right. We'll make it up ourselves. But we're going to ask for a little bit of participation in that way at times. So first of all, with readiness, embracing failure. Embracing failure. We talked about how lawyers tend to be perfectionists. I certainly would have called myself a perfectionist for the first 20 years of my career. And this is a safe space now when you're doing an improvisation exercise to make mistakes. In fact, mistakes are required in improv, I would say. So Jen, why don't we try a foundational improvisation exercise just between the two of us where we're telling a story together.
Sure. Rick, can you take the slide down?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Thanks.
So this is called Word at a Time Story. This is what I love about improv. Often the titles are very, very obvious, which we'll get to later. So Word at a Time Story, what we're going to do is we're going to tell a story together. We're going to make it up. We haven't practiced this. We don't know what the story is going to be about. If you have a suggestion for a story, do put it in the Q&A. So what is the topic of this story? The way that this works is we're going to take turns. So each of us only get one word, or in improv terms, one offer at a time. So part of what we have to do is we have to share control of the story. So Jen, anything else you want to add before we get started? Or do you want to just dive right into it?
I think we'll go ahead and do it. All right. And just so you guys know, Paul and
Cats.
I have been doing improv together for a long time. We met over, I think, nearly 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And we're part of the same improv group, actually. But these games that we're talking about, I don't know that we've ever actually played these games, just the two of us. So, we're gonna see what happens. All right. Okay.
Cats is our suggestion, Jen.
Cats.
Cats.
Okay. Wait, cats or hats?
Cats.
Cats. Okay. All right.
Once
Upon
uh
time
there
was
uh
man
who
loved
cats.
every
Morning
he
would
go
to
the
store
and
buy
a
cat.
until
One
day
he
looked
at
his
cats
and
realized
he
had
300 cats.
oh
That's
uh
lot
of
cats.
all right, we can stop there for now. All right, so you see how this goes. Thank you for the suggestion of cats. Oh, I love cats. So that we didn't know where the story was going to go. We started it once upon a time. That's typically how you would start a word at a time story. That's the structure of the game, but we didn't know where it was going to go. So how did we tell that story together? Well, we had to, first of all, not be afraid to make a mistake. It wasn't going to be a perfect story. We knew that, maybe one word would surprise us. Jen, were you ever surprised by anything that I said in that?
Store. I think store threw me. But we went ahead and went with it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was surprised by three. Like I didn't know, was it he only had a few cats, or did we have to make it a bigger number? So I had to go with that. So that's part of what you do in this. And then, the other thing we had to do is we had to commit to it. And you'll notice we committed to it not just in terms of the truth of the story, right? Keeping it simple. I was imagining this man who was going to the store and had all these cats at his house as we told it. And maybe Jen you had a different image of it, but we were committed to that image, and we didn't let our brain get in the way to second guess what we were saying.
I want to add a note about embracing failure. I actually think that that was a fairly successful story. It made sense. And I think that if you had 300 cats, you too would look at them and say, oh, that's a lot of cats. But what I notice when I'm playing this game and when I'm teaching this game is I'm not only listening to what people are saying in terms of the words, but I'm also looking at their faces because their faces will reveal how they feel about how the story is going. And this is something that I am cognizant of when I'm in trial. Or when I'm appearing before a judge, when I'm appearing before a jury, basically anybody who is going to be looking at my face, my body, my posture, and evaluating or interpreting that nonverbal expression that I'm giving. And so I don't think that this happened here, but I've certainly seen it where if somebody says a word in the story that I did not like, or I wasn't expecting, or I'm thinking in my head, that's dumb. I want to not let my face give it away too much, right? But I have certainly seen people in playing these games, they're closed off, they're standing like this, and then when a word comes up and they're going, that is, I mean, it's okay when you're doing improv, but even in a safe improv space, to express this kind of negativity over an offer that you are trying to, or that has come up in the course of collaboration, I mean, you're making a response to that, right? If my witness gives an answer that is confusing or that is not something that I was expecting, I know cerebrally I need to fix it, right? I'm going to have to clarify, I'm going to have to rehabilitate it. But the last thing I want to do is highlight that this was a quote unquote mistake. I don't want to give it away, right? I don't want to undermine my witness's credibility by making a face or acting confused. I want to say, yes, okay, let's clarify that. Or can we fix that? Or how am I going to rehabilitate your answer? Because I don't want the jury to think that I think that he's made a mistake, right? I don't want the jury to think that I'm judging the witness's answer. I want to keep that positive flow going. I want to keep the story going.
Oh, I love that so much, Jen. And with the lawyers that I work with, I don't know if you're like this, I'm certainly like this. We're very hard on ourselves when we make mistakes. And I think that can sometimes blow the mistake out of proportion.
Hmm.
So if we're beating ourselves up over making a quote unquote mistake in the practice of law, oftentimes it doesn't read as a mistake to the others in the room. And the more that you beat yourself up over it and the more that you internalize it, like that's undercutting your client's needs in cases. So part of this is just reframing it and zooming out a bit and putting less pressure on what those mistakes are. Because as we all know, the more you practice, most mistakes can be fixed later on.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so give yourself some grace there. I love that, Jen.
Yeah. I
The
mean,
last, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, but especially, right? I mean, the law, even if you're a solo practitioner, you're again very seldom just totally by yourself, right?
Mhm.
And so when you think about how you react to other people's mistakes, particularly your colleagues, right? I mean, think about how you can give them some grace as well.
The last piece of readiness that I think is really important, and this is something that's a bigger subject that I spend a lot of time coaching executives and lawyers on, is presence. And for me, what we had to do when we were telling that story, we had to be ready. We had to be here with each other so that we weren't stopping the story, that we weren't retreating from the story, and also that we weren't pushing too much and trying to get our next word and drive the story in a certain direction. So there was a give and take that had to be there. And so this state of readiness is really, really important when it comes to executive presence, when it comes to courtroom presence, when I was negotiating deals, how you show up, right? Are you showing up as a full human being in that moment when things matter the most? So for me, and what I teach, and a lot of my presence theories that I teach go back to Patsy Rodenberg, who is the Shakespeare scholar that I studied with in the UK. And she came up with this idea that actors, when they have stage presence, are in this state where they're neither retreating and they're neither pushing too much. So having that sense of give and take, that sense of flow, is something that's attention. It's how are you paying attention in a moment? But there's also a physical aspect. There's a physical aspect to presence that's really, really important. So, are you standing tall? Is your spine long? Are you connected to the ground? Are you breathing? which is a huge thing for us. So that's part of why we do improv, is that it keeps us in this state of alertness, but reminds us the practice of it. The tough thing about it is, can you breathe? Can you stay grounded while being there attention wise? So that's a great thing that improv can help with.
I always tell my students in my trial ad class that you in trial want to present yourself as the most credible version of yourself. And so if you are by nature kind of shifty and shady looking, you're going to have to work on it, right? You have to open up yourself. You have to present a version of yourself that is still you, right? Juries can totally tell when you're faking it, but you want it to be the most credible version. And and that can be achieved. This is sort of more like self-awareness and a little more theater, presentation presence, like Paul is saying, and less about improv, but just knowing the character that you are gonna express, depending on whether you stand up tall and your arms are by your side and your head is still and you're speaking in complete sentences versus, just even small minor adjustments where you're not holding eye contact, where you're touching your face. I mean, this really can make a big difference in how you present. And that kind of self-awareness can be very handy. You walk into a room and you want to know, what is the version of myself I need to present right now?
Yes, shifty lawyer. Most people don't want a shifty lawyer. Some might, I don't know. Yeah, so valuable. So this is the next section, collaboration. This is a huge part of improv and a huge benefit to anybody, as Jen said, who works in a team, which we all do. Practicing law, even if you're a tax lawyer figuring out something really intricate at your desk, that ultimately you have to communicate it, right? And you have to show up in those client meetings, and you have to show up in partner meetings or wherever it may and be heard and listen and connect. So improv is great for that. Um, so we're going to talk about a few different aspects here. We'll put this slide down in a second. So listening is one thing we'll go through. Saying yes, which as most of us who know anything about improv have heard, yes and is one of the principal foundational principles. Being obvious, we've mentioned, and then sharing control and making your partner look good. So we can put down the slide now, Rin. Thank you so much. And let's do a couple exercises that get to listening and saying yes. So this is a fun one. This is called last letter, first letter. And if anybody wants to put another suggestion in the Q&A right now, feel free to. One word is great. That's all we need. So this one is exactly how it sounds. Last letter, first letter. So we're going to have a conversation, and Jen is going to be listening to me. And when I am done with my sentence or paragraph, hopefully we'll keep it to just a sentence here. She's going to be listening for the last letter, spelling wise, of the last word that I speak. So that's K if it's speak. And then she will start her next sentence, her response to me as we have this conversation, with the letter K. So 26 options, and you don't know which one it's going to be. So that's last letter, first letter. Okay, do we have a suggestion? Coffee. Awesome. Jen, you want to start?
Sure. Hazelnut latte for Paul.
Let's give her another hazelnut latte.
Every morning, she comes in and she tries to put down a different name so that we don't realize she drinks hazelnut lattes far more than she should.
Darn it. I wish I could work somewhere else. This is a stressful job.
Boy, tell me about it. I don't even have time to drink my own coffee these days.
Sandra, you're so right. Neither do I.
If we owned our own coffee shop, but only sold one coffee every 5 minutes, that would give us time to live our lives.
So true. And if we charge the right amount for that one cup of coffee, we could be millionaires too.
Oh my God, people love overpriced artisanal coffees.
Everyone loves them. I can't get enough myself.
For sure.
All right. Yeah. So that's how it goes, right? We don't know what's going to come up. Sometimes there's going to be a letter that I don't, and I wasn't trying to trick you with any letters. We kept it pretty simple, but F is a tougher one, maybe an unexpected one. So how is that for you, Jen? Any observations from that game?
Sure. I love Last Letter, First Letter because it is one of those games where the rule requires you to listen from the beginning of the sentence all the way to the end. I will play this in my trial ad class where, I will set up the witness and the attorney who's examining the witness, and I will make the attorney have to play Last Letter, First Letter. Um, and I often find that, when you're in trial or a deposition, right, that you have your scripted questions and you have a sense of what the witness is going to say, and you're not really listening to your witness. And you're just thinking about your next question, you're thinking ahead to your closing, you're thinking, ahead to your next witness, whatever it is, you're missing out on the most important thing that is happening, which is the witness's answers to your question. And if you're not listening, you can miss out on all kinds of gold nuggets. Maybe the witness is, um, you know, um, skipping ahead to a new topic that you realize makes a lot of sense now to discuss instead of waiting, and you're going to go with it, right? And we're going to get into yes and in a second, but you yes and your witness because you've been listening to your witness and you go down that road, and the jury actually will understand that particular line of questioning more than if you had waited to where you had planned it in your script. The witness might say something that, is not accurate. And now you need to, either fix it if you're on direct or exploit it if you're on cross, right? If you're on cross and your witness says something that opens the door to a line of questioning that you didn't think you'd be able to get into, but now they've done it and you go down that road and it benefits your case, right? If you hadn't been listening and you miss it, a lot of missed opportunities there. So, especially if you're a litigator, but, even if you are doing negotiations, transactions, anything that requires active listening, this is a good game for you to practice active listening, and honestly, if you want to show respect to somebody, if you want to show someone that you really, really, really respect them, love them, whatever it is, listening to them with your full attention is the greatest thing that you can do.
That's awesome. Jen, I'm going off script a little bit. Can we
Yeah.
demonstrate the witness examination with last letter, first letter
Oh,
briefly? Yeah,
sure.
I'll be your witness.
Oh, okay. All right. Sure. All right. Well, I was a federal prosecutor for a long time, so let's make this a criminal case. All right. So, uh, all right. Detective O'Malley, what did you see when you first arrived at the crime scene?
Everything was covered in blood. It was horrific. There was um, there was a body that was strewn out over the couch, and it was one of the worst things I've seen in my entire career.
Really? Strewn all over the couch? That seems to suggest that the body was in multiple pieces.
So many pieces. It was horrific.
Can you describe for the jury where each body part was on the couch when you first entered the living room?
Most of them were on the cushions. Some of the bigger body parts were on the floor.
Right. The body part on the floor that I'm most interested in is the head. Could you describe what the expression on the victim's face appeared to be to you?
Understanding. It looked like the witness had just realized something really, or the victim had just realized something really important.
That is a very interesting observation, Perhaps the victim could have just discovered the secret that the killer was trying to keep. Of course,
Perhaps.
that calls for speculation, so I'm drawing the objection there. But
All right, that's your Halloween, your gory improv game. That's so fun. I love doing that, Jen.
I just have to say, right? I mean, I know you guys are watching and hopefully you're enjoying this. I'm enjoying the hell out of this because it is such a delight, right? That when Paul and I started this webinar, 20, 30 minutes ago, we had no idea that we were going to end up doing a witness examination about body parts with an understanding victim. So how fun to just create something out of nothing on a random Wednesday morning.
So the second important tool with collaboration that we have here is yes and. Yes
Yeah,
and.
let's talk about that. Right. So most people, if you ask them what is the first rule of improv, somebody out there knows enough about improv that they're probably going to say yes and. When I'm teaching an in-person class, I actually point out that the most important rule of improv is safety first. That is where the improv and the law collide, right? We always want to make sure that people are being safe, especially physically in a room. But yes and is fundamental. It's fundamental to any kind of progress in collaboration. Paul has already used the word offer. Sometimes you can think of it as a gift, right? So whenever anybody says something to you or offers you an idea, think of it as a gift and something that you are being offered and that you have the choice now to accept. And not just accept, but how are you going to accept it? Are you going to accept it with positivity? Are you going to accept it sort of like half-heartedly? Are you going to not accept it at all? This is especially crucial for negotiations, but, yes and is how you're going to advance any kind of interpersonal collaboration. So, Paul, I want us to do a little conversation in which we're going to plan something and go ahead and put in the Q&A. What is this thing that Paul and I are planning? But here's the thing is that I am only allowed to say one of three lines. I can only say no, I can say no way, or I can say that's dumb, which I hear from my children all the time when I'm making suggestions to them. So, let's see how that lands. Did we get a suggestion in the Q&A?
I don't think so. We had, a bank robbery dressed as clowns. So you have bank robbery and clowns. Oh, Jen, I have a question for you before we start.
Yes,
So am I
sure.
also doing those same three responses or do I have a normal?
No, you get to say whatever you want. I've got my three responses and I hear clowns. So let's plan a birthday party, a kid's birthday party, or a terrifying adult party. No, let's do a kid's birthday party.
So Elizabeth, I'm really excited about Jenny's party this week.
No.
She's been looking forward to it all year.
No way.
Yeah, she came to me last week and asked that we have clowns for her. So I hope
No way.
I think clowns are a great idea. And there's one that lives down the street. She offered to do it for free.
No.
Jenny's going to be so sad.
That's dumb.
You're calling our child dumb because you don't like clowns?
That's dumb.
Oh,
all right. Okay. Let's just stop it here. Okay. So, what got planned? Ultimately, what changed? What was accomplished? Right? Literally nothing. Okay.
Right. Maybe they're getting a divorce.
Yeah. Let's plan something else. I know. Oh, poor Jenny. Let's plan something else. Go ahead and drop that. Wait, what was the other suggestion that we had in the chat? It was something, and it was a bank robbery. Okay, let's plan a bank robbery. Only this time, I will speak the lines, and Paul, your only lines. You get to say your own lines too. Oh wait, no. You know what? Let's just go straight to the no. Let's go to the no. So, or let's go to the Let's go to the yes.
Yes.
You get to say yes. You get to say sounds good, and you get to say let's go. All right. These are your only three options. Okay.
Great.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm so excited to finally hit the Federal Credit Union on First and Main.
Let's go. I got the car and back.
Okay, yeah. No, you only get to say yes.
Oh,
Sounds
I don't
good.
say, I
And
don't add
let's
anything
go.
else.
Right. No, those are
Okay.
your only
New
three lines.
scene.
All right.
New
Okay.
scene.
Oh,
I
all right.
failed. Yay.
Yay! Yay! Yay!
Yay.
Yay! Ordinarily, of course, and I actually got very excited that you had a car. But for the purpose of this exercise, I want the audience to see here, what happens when you do say those lines, because the next one we're
Gotcha.
going to get to. Okay. All
All
right.
right.
So, do
New
we
scene.
have a suggestion for something else that we're planning? The Federal Credit Union is safe for now.
I, I saw turtles earlier in the chat.
Turtles.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's plan a beach vacation. Okay. Okay.
Great.
All right. Okay. Hey, honey. So when we get to Hawaii, I was thinking maybe we could get a cabana at the pool.
Sounds good.
Okay. And what if what if we woke up super early so we could get out to the beach and like stake out the best piece of real estate?
Let's go.
Um, and what if we actually, took some scuba lessons?
Yes.
Because then we could go scuba diving.
Yes.
And we could see those turtles that everybody's been talking about on Reddit.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and book all those things.
Let's go.
Okay, all right. Okay, so that was great. We accomplished a lot. But what I want to point out is that Paul, although he did not stop me from suggesting any of the plans, his character did not exactly contribute to it. Right. And so we're talking about the various levels of from no to yes. And so we started at no, we got to yes. And now I want to kind of backtrack a little bit to what's in between. And this is something that lawyers do all the time, either when we're either saying no or we are going to say yes, but. Okay. And so Paul and I are going to plan something else. And this time we both get to say our lines, but our lines must start with yes, but. And I want you guys watching this to clock what kind of progress we're able to make. Do we have another suggestion for something that we could plan?
In the Q&A.
Yeah. Do you have anything?
Yeah,
All right.
cruise to Antarctica. Okay.
A cruise to Antarctica. Oh, cool. Okay. All right. Uh, so I was thinking that for our anniversary, we could, I don't know, go on a cruise to Antarctica.
Yes, but it sounds sort of cold. Uh, uh, Maybe we can go to Mexico instead.
Yeah, but we were just there and, I thought it'd be nice to do something we haven't done yet. What about deep sea fishing? We can charter a boat.
Yes, but I do get seasick too if we're out too long. Maybe we could go to Las Vegas.
Yes, but last time, I mean, things got a little out of hand and we barely made it out, so I'm not sure that actually we're allowed back into the entire strip. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So let's stop there. All right. So again, we were saying yes to each other, but nothing got accomplished, right? At the end of the scene, they still have no anniversary plan. Because yes, but is a sneaky no. So just be mindful of that. When your goal is to accept an offer and to advance and have progress, yes, but is a sneaky no that is actually going to stop that. Okay. And so the final thing we're going to do is, right, the fundamental, the yes and, where you are not only accepting the offer, but you're going to build on it. And that is where true collaboration is going to live. All right. So, do we have another suggestion for something we're planning?
Jewelry shopping.
Jewelry shopping? Oh, I like that. Okay. All right. Okay. So everything we say has to start with yes and. Okay. Okay.
Great.
Okay. Um, well, I'm so happy to help you select the special ring for your special person.
Yes, and I want it to be a big diamond.
Yes, and this is our very, very biggest diamond that we have in the entire store. I'll let you guess how many carats it is. Oh, I'll just tell you, it's 30.
Yes, and I love all of the different colorings in it. It seems very unusual.
Yes, and there is no other ring in the entire world like it. We actually commissioned this from not one, not two, but three celebrity wives of actual celebrities who are now celebrity jewelers.
Yes, and my wife Denise is an aspiring celebrity, so I think she'll like it a lot.
Yes, and I have heard about your wife, Denise, and I think she has the perfect frame to carry off a 30-carat ring. Although it seems like, she has two hands, you might want to have something to offset this ring and balance it on the other hand.
Yes, and if the price is right, I think there's a deal to be made there.
Yes. And for somebody who is going to buy 60 carats worth of diamonds, there is definitely a deal to be made. Okay. All right. And so this is, of course, the magic of improv, which is something from nothing. Now, obviously, when we are talking about, real cases with real facts, you do not have creative license. You do not get to make up your facts. But the principle, the skill is there, which is, even in the direct examination that we did about the body parts strewn over the couch, right? There is yes and at work there. Because if he had said there were body parts strewn over the couch, right, I could have knowed him. I could have ignored him. I could have moved on to the next question. I now want to ask you about what's happening in the garage, right? But if you yes and, that is a form of very effective storytelling, right? In which you are continuing down the path that you have set, and your audience, your fact finders, your judge, your jury, and your witness, they feel like they're a part of it. They feel like they're on the same page, and they're going to be able to build on it. And this
really,
actually,
sorry, go ahead,
sorry, go
Jen.
ahead. No, go ahead. I was going to move on to the next thing, but
Oh, I was going to add on the transactional side, and this is
please.
really, really important for yes and this is why you should have lawyers teach you improv, because saying yes does not, in this context, does not necessarily mean you are agreeing to the words that the other side is saying. What we were asking for is you're a yes-anding the situation. You're not denying the reality of the situation. So as a negotiator, I don't have to agree that your client deserves $500 million. I could have a very different point of view on what the facts are and what's right in this case. But what I can yes and is that your client's really upset about something and that their business realities are a certain way. So there's a way to listen and a way to use yes and that involves more than just the semantic meaning of the words that you're saying. And we as lawyers get cautious about that because, of course, contracts are formed with yes and. But when you're having a conversation, when you're having a negotiation, when you're de-escalating conflict, yes anding the emotional stakes behind something or just the facts on the ground or that it feels true to them can be really, really valuable.
I feel like there's a lot of yes anding as well, that potential for yes anding in like the regulatory sphere, right? If you're trying to come up with policy for regulating something, and you have a lot of stakeholders and you have a lot of differing perspectives and differing interests and needs. I mean, you have to take those things into consideration. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to give everybody what they want, but like Paul said, right? You want to be, open to receiving and hearing what it is that they have to say. So, oh my God, it's going to summarize everything we've just talked about. You have to listen to what they're saying. You have to fully listen. You have to understand it, and then you have to be ready to receive it. And then you have to think about, well, if the goal is to try to come up with the scheme that makes the most sense with the best results for as many people as possible, right? How can we yes and what it is that they're trying to get at? So I want to move on to the last thing that was on the collaboration slide, which is being obvious. And this ties into what I was saying before about, when we are storytelling, when we're going down a particular path. That being obvious is one of the most important things that you can do as a lawyer who is trying to communicate your thoughts and be persuasive about, your theory of the case, or to get at whatever it is your end goal is. In improv, um, being obvious is crucial, right? When we are making things up together, it's not that I can actually read Paul's mind. He can't read mine. But when we're on the same page and we're advancing the story, it can feel like we're able to read each other's minds. But we're not. We're just being obvious. We're just doing the thing that makes the most sense that probably he's already thinking of anyway, right? And so even in the games that we've demonstrated here, I mean, even in the story about the man with the 300 cats, right? I think it is a very obvious choice that he looked at his cats and said, "Oh, that's a lot of cats." Suddenly this man is, from Minnesota. When I am, let's put it this way. You cannot be persuasive without being obvious. It's much harder to be persuasive when you're being clever. In improv parlance, the word clever is actually antithetical to improv. It means that you are doing something that, may seem kind of cool and tricksy, but it is going to be, by definition, not obvious, and so harder for the people who are on stage with you to follow. And if the people on stage with you can't necessarily follow where you're going, then think of where the audience is, And when I'm performing improv, you can always tell that when an improviser says something clever, the response that they get from the audience is like, oh, clever, snap, snaps. It's a very different response than when the improviser says something obvious, because the audience was thinking that too. And it's so satisfying to them that the improviser just said the thing that they were thinking, that they actually have a much more visceral and positive response. All right, now turn that audience into your jury. If you need to persuade your jury to believe the version of the story that you're trying to tell based on the facts that are in evidence, right? If you are telling the story in a very convoluted way, you're trying to be clever, maybe you're, using words that the jury doesn't understand, or you're not speaking clearly, you're being too fancy with your syntax. Guess what? You're going to lose your jury. And then guess what? You haven't persuaded them. And then guess what? You're going to lose. Right? And so when I am in trial, when I'm teaching trial ad, I am pushing being obvious as much as possible, because, if somebody doesn't understand what you're saying, even in that moment, if you've said something that the listener doesn't understand, just in that moment that they're trying to figure out what it is you mean, you have lost them. You have lost their engagement because now they've retreated into their own head to make sense of what you've just said. But if you're doing everything in a very obvious way, you're going to be able to keep them, on your train of thought. Juries in America, I mean, I don't know if juries elsewhere are like this, but right, the American jury process is inherently terrible for being obvious and very bad for storytelling. I'm skipping ahead a little bit to storytelling because I see we're kind of running out of time a little bit. But, how does information come through in a jury trial, right? Not chronologically, it's disjointed. You put one witness on, you got to pull everything out of that witness, as you can. And then, there's multiple cross-examinations sometimes, right? I mean, the information's coming at the jury in like the least effective way for storytelling as possible. And so you have two large tasks. You have to be strategic in the way that that information is coming in within the constraints of a jury trial. And then you have to be ready to retell this story to the jury in your closings in a way that ties everything together, in a way that makes sense, in an obvious way. And that is how you're going to be persuasive. So, we have here a couple of ways in which we talk about storytelling. I don't know that we're going to have time to get to all of it, but, uh, you know, if you ever want to give yourself a very quick and visceral reminder of how great it is to be obvious, a game that I will play in my workshops is I will tell people to just walk around the room and point at objects, but then say, what it's not, right? So I'm pointing at my laptop, but instead of saying computer, I'm going to say palm tree, right? And you just go around and for like 1 minute, just keep pointing at objects, really stare at them, but then come up with a word that is not what it is. And then take 30 seconds and walk around the same room and point at objects and say what it is. And your brain will literally feel this huge sense of relief because you just made it do all this work by being not obvious, having to come up with something that it is not, right? Palm tree instead of computer. And then to be able to go back to just saying what it is, great reminder that, obvious is easier. Don't make your don't make your audience have to work for it. The last thing I'll say about being obvious is I also compare. I teach a lot of legal research and writing as well, and when I talk about clear, persuasive writing, the big takeaway in what I teach is you need to put your argument in literally every sentence that you're writing, and you need to make sure that your argument is obvious and that you are not making your reader have to work for it, right? And so don't do that thing where you lay out paragraphs of what the applicable law is and then you get to your facts, right? That's asking your reader to have to keep flipping back and forth. That's not legal analysis. Same thing in oral advocacy, right? Don't tell convoluted stories. Don't make them have to work for it. The analogy that I use is feeding a small child, feeding a toddler. I want my kid to eat. I am literally going to spoon feed the bite into her mouth. I am not going to make her work for it, right? Because at the end of the day, I want her to eat, and I'm not going to be clever about it. I'm going to be obvious, and I'm going to put it in her mouth. Put your persuasive arguments in the mouths of your fact finders, in your readers, right? The judges, whatever it is, you want to be obvious.
This is so helpful, Jen. And this is true in transactional work too. You're telling the story of your client's case. You're putting together a merger deal. What's going to happen? What are the benefits of the merger? What are the positive outcomes of it? So this comes up all the time, no matter what your practice is. And we have about 5 minutes left. And so if you have questions for us, please start putting them in the Q&A and we'll try to get to as many as we can. Jen, I think it would be useful to do color advance emotion for this group really quickly,
Sure.
only because as you're fleshing out a story, it reminds you of maybe all the different things that aren't as linear as when we think about, okay, what happened? What were the facts? What happened on the night of December 24th, right? So if we could play that really quickly, I think that'd be a useful skill to demonstrate.
Sure.
All right. Uh, we'll make up our own suggestion for this. And Jen, do you want to tell a story? Or Jen, why don't you tell a story about something that happened in the last week? Doesn't have to be anything dramatic, but just something interesting that happened in the last week for you. And I will
Okay.
I have three options: color, which means flesh out what things looked like, what's the visual of the scene; advance, go further in the plot; and emotion, how did you feel? What was your reaction to what was happening?
Sure, sure. Okay, last week, I traveled up to the Bay Area and I tacked on a day at our San Francisco office of the
Emotion.
firm. And I was excited. I was really, I've only just recently joined the firm and I hadn't met, my paralegal sits in San Francisco and I had spoken to her on the phone and I had, even had some Zooms with her, but I had never met her in person. So I was
Color, the
really
paralegal.
excited to meet her in person. And when I did finally meet her, well, she was like, just so bubbly and so welcoming and She was a little taller than I expected because I'd only ever seen her on Zoom, and she was so welcoming, and it was, she even showed up early
Color
for
the
our
law
meeting.
firm.
So, I went into the law firm. I had brought pastries to bring to everybody at the firm. The office occupies, part of the eighth floor, and the windows, were all open. It was a beautiful day, and the light was coming through all the glass.
Advance.
And I walked in holding enough pastries for like 20 people. And my wonderful paralegal greeted us, and she said, "Well, there's only 3 of us here today
Emotion.
because everybody else is either out or at a conference. A lot of people are at a conference." I felt simultaneously like kind of disappointed that I wasn't going to get a chance to meet everybody in the office, but also kind of relieved that I would be able to have more time to spend with my paralegal and the other 2 people who
All
were in the
right, great.
office.
We can end it there. So
Yeah.
great job, Jen. So this is something that you can do with other attorneys in your office, right? As they're walking through an opening statement. What's missing? What's missing from the story, right? So help your colleagues with that. And it's a great way just to pause and really see the scene that's around you.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I forgot to mention that the last prevailing feeling that I had was excitement that I would get to eat more of these pastries, which is in fact what happened.
Well, listen, so it's 11:21. We are going to stop this webinar in a moment, but do we have any questions in the chat or in the Q&A? Let's see. I don't think we have any right now.
So I do not see any questions in the Q&A, so I think we are good to end here. Paul and Jennifer, thank you so much. This webinar was fantastic, very entertaining, and very helpful. And thank you to our attendees for joining us today.
Can we just make another plug for, if you enjoyed this, if you thought this was interesting and you would like to get a taste of what this is like in person or even on Zoom, I really, really encourage you guys to reach out to us because, we run workshops at law firms, at law schools, and, people come through these workshops and they're like, "That was really cool." I'm a total improv evangelist. I think lawyers need it more than anybody else. And I would love for the people who are attending this webinar to get a little more intrigued and to reach out to us. I also want to plug that Paul and I are in a group in LA. It's called Nowtown, and that we do have we do improv shows. We do improv shows in Los Feliz. This December, we're going to be doing an improvised holiday romance. So basically coming out and see some stories made up in front of your eyes in a very cozy holiday setting. So reach out to us for more information. You can also find us on, we're on Facebook actually, facebook.com/nowtown, one word. Paul?
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, and I'm at voxvera.com, voxvera.com, and you can reach out to us for any trainings or questions. Thank you, Beverly Hills Bar Association.
And thank you all for
Hope
watching.
to see you soon. Take care.